This is Starting Point, a podcast that tracks Guyana's unprecedented growth from all vantage points. Join your hosts, Kiana Wilberg and Fariza Hanif, as they dive deep into the heart of topical issues.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Starting Point. I am Fariza Hanif and I'm joined by Kiana Wilberg. Today's episode will focus on the government's trailblazing plan for the housing sector. And who else to tell us all about it other than the Minister of Housing himself, the Honorable Collin Croal. Minister Croal, thank you for joining us on
Thank you
Starting
very
Point.
much. It's a pleasure.
It's nice to have you after such a long time. It's the first time you're on our program too, right?
It's a while we've spoken, and this is my first time in this studio, definitely.
It's so good to have you. Now, Minister Croal, I want to get right into it. I just alluded to the ambitious housing plan that the government has, and one of the commitments made in the manifesto and the campaign trail is to construct 40,000 houses in 5 years. Very ambitious. Now, what I'm really interested in knowing is what is the model being used for this? Is it a build and sell model? And will it be given to those on the waiting list, the applicants on that very long waiting list?
Sure, I'll answer. But I'm reminded when we started in 2020, when we said 50,000 allocations, and that's our commitment. And we keep using the word ambitious target. And there are a lot of naysayers.
Right.
So the point I'm making here is that what we commit in our manifesto meant we would have done the analysis of what is required for this task to be delivered upon. Now, the 40,000 houses to be constructed that we're targeting over these 5 years, so that's talking an average of 8,000 per year. That is taking the context of the number of pending applicants we have in the system. So as we speak now, we're over 70,000 pending applicants, persons who would have applied and are waiting in the various regions. Well, the largest volume, as expected, will be right here in Region 4. And we want to ensure that we are also helping the process for home ownership. There are also young professionals like yourself, or both of you, and you don't have the time to be building homes, dealing with the hassles with contractors, buying materials, etc. So what this does is also eases from your end. And it also boosts the economy in terms of construction. Now, the model that we're using is no different from how we normally construct our houses. The beneficiaries all have to come through our system, so they all have to be pending applicants. That's one. Secondly, we're at the stage now where we've just completed the expression of interest. So the team, as I speak, by this Friday, will complete their shortlisting in terms of those that have expressed their interest to move to the next stage. We have over 250. At the time, I didn't have the numbers when I said 200,000 to another media. I could tell you it's over 250,000, 250 applicants, and that persons have expressed interest. So that's why it's taking a while. And we're happy about that. We're very happy about that. What we did is, in this advertisement, we provided the various sizes of houses that we're interested, similar to what we're doing. We didn't confine persons to the design, and that's left open to the persons who are applying.
These are the contractors.
The contractors who are applying. And so from that, those persons could be creative in their design. All they have to do is achieve our square footage. And it caters for the three major sizes in terms of low income, moderate, middle. Those are like the 3-bedroom flat, and of course the young professional houses, which has a huge demand. And there's a reason for that. Persons are earning more in our country. Young persons are also given the opportunity to be able to work. They're able to go to the bank to acquire a mortgage. They can show that they have a security of tenure, etc. So you have a lot of persons who are applying for those young professional houses too. So it's a heavy demand. And so those are the responses in which we ask persons to express interest. And based on when we are engaging formally with those persons, the contractors, potential contractors, they will then be given contracts to build houses. We're looking at volumes as well as the time span, because expediency is also of concern. Now, those will be you have a number of new areas. We are currently looking at lands to be able to construct houses. But I also want to say the opportunity exists for those who have already been allocated. And so, for example, those new areas that we're completing the infrastructure, nearing completing the infrastructure
Preparing the
so
land.
prepare the land for the first phase. It gives an opportunity for persons there who have been allotted to also benefit from this program. Because what we intend to do, will have exercises with maybe a few of the contractors. They will showcase their house. We go on spot, go on the particular area, and we have them displaying the type of houses that they're interested in building, have the banks on the spot there to do pre-qualification. And so you can have the consolidation within a new area for persons who are interested in whatever type of house that is to be built.
They want to be built.
That they want to be versed. Because the thing is, the cost, you have to look at the economies of scale. So if one is building a house in and each area, then it will cost more because the logistics to get the transportation, etc., to transport the materials will cost more because every time you're moving from one area to the next. If you have consolidation in the area, where it doesn't have to be the lots next to each other, once you have consolidation area, then it can work. So the persons, for example, East Bank of Demar, on all those blocks waiting, East Coast, those new areas you see opening up, those persons will have an opportunity for this type of construction. Now, you ask about that model, but I also want to say this is not being done at the expense of our local contractors too. On those persons who are constructing in the traditional means, the blocks and the method. That our engagement still continues, and we have been allocating. You've heard us spoken about us tightening too in terms of monitoring and to ensure that the quality of work that is being done. We have had challenges in that regard, and so we're doing some strengthening here. But the one that we have sent out for expression of interest is more along with modular houses, because what that does, you can have a pure prefab or you can have a hybrid. What that does is allow quantity to be put up in a particular time. So once they set up their chain, then they can have the houses set up in a very quick manner.
So you're basically finalizing the list of contractors who would have submitted the EO.
We're currently going through the list for the EOIs.
You've identified some of the areas already.
We do have we do have few areas that are ready for us to be able to put contractors.
And will we see some of this in Linden as well, in Region 10 and Region 3?
Absolutely. Every region will benefit from this program, the housing program. We want to build houses for persons. We want persons to have home ownership very quickly. It's not only about helping the economy, it's also about helping the social fabric. A lot of persons have the challenges in terms of renting, the family issue, we're staying with family members, those dynamics, and it has a lot of mental pressure too. We don't realize it. And we want to help in that regard. We want to ensure that we have communities, complete communities. And so our focus, while you asked on houses, will not just be on the houses for the communities, will also be in terms of enhancement to have the necessary services, including green spaces, and you'll also see a lot of focus on beautification.
That's really, really good. You mentioned about 8,000 units per year. What do you think the investment would be like on a yearly basis? How much would it cost?
So let's do the quick breakdown. Those low income houses, for example, that we're building, those are at $5.5 million. Those are being constructed. The 3-bedroom houses, they're around $9 to $11 million. And young professional flat, they're 15 and 24. The prices at which we're hoping that it will be coming in less, because, as I said, they'll have volumes. They'll be able to benefit from economies of scale. So the investment, billions of dollars. But you're talking about investment in terms of for the houses. Now, those will be paid for by the beneficiaries through the same system that we have now. And that is for pre-qualified persons to pre-qualify and be able to pay through the bank.
Okay.
And by and large, majority of persons do. Some people do have hybrid. Maybe they have a little savings, so they put that, and the rest they take from the bank. So majority goes through the bank. But the level of investment also, which we're not talking about, is also in terms of preparation for the land.
Right.
And so that will be that billions of dollars. And then as we did an analysis, we say on average it takes about $5 million just to develop one lot in front of where you're living. So, look at the replicating effect. And so we're talking billions of dollars, and that is why you've heard already the talk or engagement of possibly like a revolving fund for the housing sector to help, because once you have that investment and you have the repayment, then it continues, and so it will be a multiplying effect. But it's a necessary investment for people. It's something we've committed as a priority. You recall in the previous commitment, we had only committed land, although we started to build houses. This time we've enshrined the commitment to be able to build. Well, I say minimum of 40,000. So that
Yeah, minimum.
minimum of 40,000.
Minister, you spoke extensively about how the 40,000 homes will be accomplished and what's the plan to roll that out. But of course, this is going to really have an impact on the drainage systems too. It's really going to change the course of how we see the drainage networks really taking shape in Guyana. And Fariza and I, before your arrival, we were watching a live with the president where you were part of, and
Sure.
it was announced that there's going to be a Georgetown national drainage development plan.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the role your ministry will have and share some insights into the importance of this? Because we know expansion, especially in the city, is really changing the landscape.
Yes, absolutely. But there are two aspects, and we recognize the importance of drainage, and that is why that's part of our manifesto commitment in terms of a focus on community drains. The Georgetown drainage is part of the massive program in terms of enhancement of our city, and also to ensure we've had drainage issues here. So it's to also both enhancement as well as to ensure that we have efficient drainage, and also utilizing the space, the limited space that is available. How can you maximize the use of the space? And so it's along those lines, because you have always heard, growing up, we've always heard it talk about being able to cover maybe some of the drains, and so that you can use that for parking. And then you would have heard the president from the very interview that you would have listened to, speaking towards maybe an economic model where you have persons commercial level paying for usage for parking, for customer service, or even for their staff, and then that can serve as to going back towards to ensure that you maintain the system. So it's a broad committee that is involved in terms of Georgetown, but it will not be just confined to Georgetown. We're starting in Georgetown, of course. But it will not be confined to Georgetown, and there will be a lot of focus on the urban areas too, to ensure that all across the country has an efficient drainage system. At a community level, they also have that challenge, and that is in terms of the way how the drains are built, the uneven. Some persons, and they've been filling in, they've narrowed it. So you don't have that efficient flow. Then you have sometimes under the bridges blockage, and so that sort of thing. So those were that will be done in collaboration with local government because of the community drains. But while we're starting with the Georgetown plan, it will not just be confined to Georgetown. But for the Georgetown plan, it'll be a massive undertaking. We already have some initial work that has been done in terms of analyzing the drainage system that we have, as well as the requirement in terms of to ensure that the efficient drainage can have what is required for the outfalls. So it's broken up the design already is broken up into different categories. So you can have, secondary, primary, secondary, tertiary, etc., main. And so those are the four categories. And then we're also looking to concrete with drains, and then look at covering them so that you can have parking. We'll start with the main drains, of course, and then you build out. In that also has the parapets, the maintenance and the usage of parapets. A lot of persons don't realize that, and so that is also part of a focus, removing some of those things, derelicts, and some of those things persons have on the parapets for years, and
Persons building on the government
blocking and
reserves, too.
reserves. So it's a combine of activities that we'll be engaging in terms of Georgetown. And if you're talking about Georgetown, because Georgetown, the system here, the sewage system is connected here in Georgetown. And you've had, in some of the main shopping areas, for example, you're walking on the pavements and you see some of those sewage system overflowing. It's also to address that. And then the way how we dispose of our waste. Through Guyana Water, I think you've heard always about at Kingston there, where you have the disposal of the waste, and so it's to have it done in a proper manner. So that plan is also will be integrated on the Georgetown enhancement. So we're happy about the task ahead. And there are sections of Georgetown that are that is part of what will be done in collaboration with the King's Foundation. And then you have also heard spoken about by His Excellency in terms of enhancement for areas like the Stabrook, the seawall, boardwalks, etc. So I'm excited to be part of the team because it's new work, but the task ahead is one for the future of our country, and not for the next generation, but for you and I who are here now, and so for us to see that better Guyana that we all want to live in. So we no longer have to aspire to be like any other country, but just to be like our own.
Definitely.
And so the work has started. As I said, a lot of work has already gone in a short period of time from the time the president has called the committee together. Some work has already been undertaken, and so now we're putting that into more details. What we also need to speak on is that we'll be having consultations. So there are some main areas that will be identified for the consultations those that we'll be focusing on. So we're going to have that, so we can have the buy-in, and persons can also understand what is it we're undertaking, and also to get feedback. It's important to also listen to what others are saying out there. This is not government's business alone. This is all of us. This is not just for Georgetown persons who are living in Georgetown. It's for all of us, because at some point in time, so no matter where people live, they traverse the capital city.
Correct.
And Georgetown is considered is the capital city, and then you want us to speak proudly of your capital city.
Minister, I just want to bring you back to the housing drive. Now, past 5 years, we've seen some major achievements under your watch, and we've seen that been underpinned by the president's leadership in ensuring that there's equitable distribution of housing opportunities. But I want you to hone in a bit on the government's track record regarding equitable access to housing opportunities for the poor, and what that has been, how you've seen that unfold in the past 5 years, because I don't think a lot of people really understand how much is actually put in place for low and middle income.
So we have to start absolutely, and I must start with His Excellency the President, and no doubt being the former Minister of Housing too, and for the confidence he's put in our sector and placed our sector as a priority. Let's start when we came in the previous 5 years. We came in at a time when the interest rate, for example, for lending for low income, we're talking above 6%. That was the lending rate. So it was also about working with the banks and not let them understand what the vision ahead, the huge portfolio that was ahead, and based on what the government was undertaking. And then it was also to put the measures in place. So we increased the ceiling for the mortgage lending for low income. You had the lowering of the interest rates. You had also for ensuring that with the lowering, persons can borrow more. We also have programs for building of houses, so concentrated building of houses for low income or for moderate, if you want to say. So there are a number of initiatives, and then you also have the zero rating for the construction materials. You won't forget that removal of the VAT. These are things that happened, and we quickly forget these initiatives. While worldwide the cost for construction materials, we recognize, keep going up. But from government level, these are sort of initiatives that we put in place that has a direct impact on the construction sector. And then, so as we speak now, therefore, what it does, it allows even persons to aspire. They can borrow from a small amount, and then they can then expand on their home. I want to give you an impact, though, of what it meant. The part-time jobs persons talk about. A person who is earning, well, now it will be increasing them, but let's use the 40,000 that it was at before. Person can, with a part-time job, can go to NBS and apply for a low-income mortgage.
Wow.
Because it works out to about an average about 26,000. That's monthly. Of course, the part-time will allow them to have other supplemental income. That's how impactful the initiatives were to persons on the lower end of the bracket. And And a lot of persons didn't realize how much it meant for ordinary person to aspire to own their own home. As I said, you can have your home and then you expand as based on your level of disposable income at whatever time in your life. And I just want to use that as a simple example of what I mean. Before time, somebody like that couldn't aspire. Before time, young persons like yourself couldn't aspire of owning, even complete owning your own home at an early age. Now, they're actually questioning the 21 age that we have for application because they're saying you want us to lower it. That's the age we have, entry level we have for new applicants.
So definitely an unmatched record has been set.
Absolutely.
Would you lower the age, though? Are you thinking about it?
It's not under consideration. We have a huge demand, and we have to set some criteria. That's what we're working on. As I said, we have a huge backlog. Maybe in due time, years to come, when we're on par, then we can look at those kind of variables to alter.
Okay. Minister Kiana alluded to the achievements under your leadership, and one of them has to do with the development of schemes. How many have you been able to develop since you've been at the helm of the ministry, and how many more should we see in the next 5 years?
So in 5 years, we commenced over 110 new housing areas across all of the regions. In the 5 years, we have not completed all of them in terms of infrastructure. We still have some that are ongoing, but we have completed at least about I would say about 60% of those we've completed infrastructure work. And the others are nearing completion. So you have a number of areas on the East Coast, for example, for which persons will be accessing their land. And then obviously move on to be able to sign. But those persons, by the time maybe another few months, will be able to start accessing their land. So, but in all, in 6 years, you can see it's over 110 new areas that we've started up and nearing completion.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And you asked about how much more can you
Yes,
expect?
in the next 5 years.
That will be difficult for me to give you numbers now because, as I said, we're working with different agencies, Ghana Lands and Survey Commission. We're working with NISIL, and even in Region 5 case, we're with MMA, and to acquire additional lands. And where for those regions, because our commitment is to clear the backlog. So those regions that we are not able to get additional lands through the state agencies, then we will have to acquire. And for example, in Region 5 case, we're looking to acquire land.
Just one further update from me as it relates. So you keep mentioning the backlogs, and we know it's in the thousands, and you still get applications every day.
Absolutely.
How many can you say do you get per day, per week? How many applications come into the
So
ministry?
it comes in period. So just before the elections, and when I thought maybe things were going to be quiet, or even during the heat of the election, you think housing is going to be quiet, and if you pass, you always see people there. So we get a huge volume that comes in every day, new applicants that comes in applying. But it varies, the numbers varies, because we have not just Georgetown, it's all the other regional offices that we have that persons are applying. And I know that because one, certainly where persons are now confident, they're working, they have their own income, and so they can show and make their application, or in some cases when they've reached of age. So it varies in terms of the numbers applying daily, but you can have as much as 50 and plus daily. Yes.
Wow. Now, Minister, another important project in the housing landscape is the Silica City project. Can you give us some insight into how many households you're catering for in the first year, second year? How many homes have been completed, and what's the investment to date?
Sure. So Silica City is much, much more than just homes for persons to be building. It's a city, as it's said. What we did during the last period, we would have commenced the construction for about 110 houses. Some of those are complete by now, and some in the various stages. So we call that the phase one. We have an expression of interest that will be going out for phase two, for which I don't know if you recall when His Excellency spoke to the diaspora, and so that one will have that a focus there, and that's on phase two. So maybe within a week we'll have that expression of interest going out. So that will have that will have both houses, catering for houses as well as for townhouses type and low density. So that's the houses. That's one aspect. You also have other amenities. So, for example, you have two other expression of interest that are out now. That closes sometime in December. So we have, for example, the wellness village center, and then you're talking about for health, because for purpose for health. There's one that you're going to be hearing very soon on, because we are very near to completing the to be able to sign for the agreement. That is for a golf course.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the 9-hole golf course here. I'm talking for the full works. So we are engaged in a serious investor, and in fact, both sides, so from our level and that investor, we're finalizing the agreement. We should have signed by now, but I think they were doing some traveling, etc. But we want to be able to give ourselves no longer than a week to be able to be in a position to have that signed. So there's a golf course that is part of the amenity. So you will have health, you have education. You have a home. You see, there's a home we have advertised for an elderly home in terms of for as part of the focus. So there are different aspects of the city. Sports tourism is also part of the amenities. So you have different aspects of Silica City that you will see keep coming on board, and of course the innovation center too. So different aspects that keep coming on board and that we'll keep adding. We have a master plan in place that we're implementing. The initial master plan that was done through the University of Miami, and you recall His Excellency President would have presented that.
Yes.
So that is being implemented in phases. The Silica City, but I can rest assured, Silica City in a major way, you will, over these few years, will see occupancy as well as to be that level that we're proud of. We're on target.
Massive developments indeed in Silica City.
Massive development for the highway, and that is why there's also unveiling of a highway plan that we're going to implement, because what we have happening on the highway cannot continue, and I'm referring right through. You have persons who can believe that they can go occupy a land. Sometimes they know it's others farming land, persons lease land, etc. So we are consolidating communities that we're going to be working in. Asset housing too as part of our Region 4 plan, because we're reaching to that level for Region 4 that we have to move outward. So we have young professional houses that we'll be building on the highway. We have don't forget, we have the homestead program that I know some persons have asked, they haven't heard, but it's on target. We have 25 houses that are complete. So the homestead program, and we're connecting the water now, the electricity is already there. That homestead program is the intention is to be of an economic type venture, so where the shared houses can supplement and a vulnerable section of our population, to our single mothers, the women, etc. So they will be able to use the shared house as a supplemental income to pay for their mortgage for their houses. The houses are continued. They're over 25 is complete, another 25 is nearing completion, and 25 is on the new construction. So you can talk.
Would you be able to say how much has been invested for the homestead? And I also had asked about the Silica City. Would you be able to give us like a ballpark? How much has been invested?
So the investment on Silica City so far has, on the Silica City itself, it would be just for the area that we've done for the first phase for the houses.
Right.
So those 110 houses will be paid for, they will replenish themselves from the beneficiary, for which we have started allocation and signing too for listeners, because there are some persons who are following up to be able to sign. So those persons that will be replenished through the banking system. The investment we have done so far would be to prepare the area for the first phase infrastructure to accommodate those houses. I mean, I don't have that ballpark figure from my head on me here now, but we've just those initial investments have done nothing major, but we'll be moving in a major way to the other phases.
Minister, you spoke about people occupying lands that don't belong to them. Squatting has been one of the challenges that your ministry has faced. And I know you have regularized some areas and you're still dealing with more squatting issues. How many areas have you been able to regularize? And can you give us some insight as to how this is being tackled in Linden especially?
Sure. But before I answer you, I have to speak to your listeners a little, because I know over the last few weeks, your listeners have been hearing us speaking a lot about squatting, and then I see those comments that flows to say, well, what happened to us who have applied, done the right thing, and are waiting? So to your listeners, I just want to ask them to have patience. We have not resumed the allocation exercises per se, the normal allocation exercises, because, as I said, we're working out the modality in terms to implement our program. But to your listeners, be rest assured, we committed that we'll clear the backlog, and so that's what we're putting all the program and the necessary planning in place to be able to fulfill that mandate. So all pending applicants prior years can be rest assured they'll be addressed. Now to the squatting or unregulated settlements. It's a perennial issue, and it must stop. But it has to be done collectively, because the policing or the ensuring that an area stays safe or secure also is not only housing business, it's also everyone's business. And I'll come to Lynn in a few, but I just want to speak generally. And so I want to say that to your listeners. And we have said no new squatting will be recognized. We have had a robust regularization program where areas can be regularized. Where it can't, then they have to move. So, for example, you would have seen us issue the final notice. For example, there's a stretch of land or a portion of land that is south of the Ogle airstrip that we're currently addressing. Then you also have the program of removing those on the riverbank of Demerara, the east bank of Demerara, all the way from Grove coming down, all the way down, maybe Horstelling vicinity. And that's an ongoing program. We have moved many of them. A few are still there, and so we're working to remove them. So those are direct programs, and maybe before the week is out, I'll be visiting Plastic City, because that's another initiative to relocate some persons from there. So relocation is part of the exercise where we cannot in any shape or form regularize person within that area, especially if they're on no zero zone, or if there are areas of sea defenses, for example. We do have some challenges. For example, Region 3 with sea defense, persons building along the sea defense. In Region 10 case, I always say it started out with encouraged squatting, because persons were told, yes, go take in whatever land you see, land should be free, etc. And persons started to do this in a ad hoc manner. We've had challenges on areas where we are developing the infrastructure, and then you find overnight persons coming there. So we've had to strengthen our enforcement arm, and this we're doing for all the region in terms of rangers as well as for enforcement. And so in Region 10 case, we are addressing. But there are some areas that does not fall under housing. They've previously fell under NISIL lands, because most of the lands within the Linden area previously was on the NISIL. And then you have some on the Lands and Survey Commission, and those lands that are transferred from either of them, it comes to housing. So we're the smallest persons who have ownership for lands there. But we have committed, and we are addressing wherever possible to have regularization done for that to be. For example, I was in Linden last week, or the team. We were within two areas, one area called Pottsville, then there was another area within 40. Well, they call it 42, 43, Block 42, Block 43, where we're looking to regularize. We have already done the occupational survey. Closer to home, for example, Mocha is another area that we are addressing. I also want to give you a bit of information. Sometimes when we go to an area and we put a number, the number we put in that house is really for recording purpose. There's this perception when we put a number means that they'll be regularized there, and that person has this thinking that, yes, I'll be able to stay here. It's really for us for reporting purpose, and for us to know at the point when we have verified based on occupancy, we have the cutoff, so we know when new ones come.
So that's why they say the ministry gave me this number, so I
yeah,
can stay
exactly.
Here.
So it's a number that we've for recording purpose. So you can relate the infrastructure with the number. Coming back to regularization, for example, the very Region 10 that you're talking about, we talk over 10 areas we intend to target. Region 4, for example, over 16 areas. So we have regularized a number of areas. In Region 3, we had a lot of focus on We're closer to where you're from, but we've done a lot of work there. So
I plus
we
Georgeville.
continue, especially along the railway line, and there's a lot of persons there.
That's in Metamers.
Metamers, and then we're talking about further up too. So we've done a lot of work, but we have a community development departments that is specific in terms of addressing these issues. I know on the East Coast, persons have been talking some of those like LBI, Lusignan, they have persons there. So I want to say this to your listeners is that there's absolutely no excuse for any new squatting, absolutely none, because of government's program that you have in place to address home ownership and the opportunity to have your own space. There's absolutely no end. So when you see us over the next few weeks, we will be ramping up in terms of enforcement. So yes, I know they'll have some protests, etc. But we have to arrest this situation, and it's not a case that we are not being providing the access and means. And so certainly some of it, and then you have, as I said, the legitimate ones who are waiting to be addressed. So it's not that we're giving priority over the other, but all has to be addressed, and all we're doing that in simultaneous directions.
And Mr. Croal, you mentioned Plastic City, and that's one of the areas that has received a lot of media attention in the years. And you said some people will be relocated from there. What's the plan, really?
In fact, there are some persons who have already been allocated there to go to the Wales area. So we have done an analysis of there. There's some we know we can different sections we can have remain. Some cannot, and so they have to move completely. And yes, so relocation for a certain section of the Plastic City is on card. Yes.
Okay, so you're allocating them lands and helping them with going through the banks to get mortgage to bill, or you're giving
Well, we are right. We do assist them and all of that. We sometimes we even assist them to the requirement to move. But there's a joint visit that will be done by the end of this week to the area to determine extensively which of the portions that will remain, which will not, and then in an aggressive way to address it. Yeah.
And one final question from me before we move on to Kiana. There's a housing development ongoing in Wismar. What can you tell us about that? I think you were there last weekend.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
So Wismar, two phases. Phase one, we had allocations already in phase one. Phase one, in fact, by maybe 2 weeks from today, you will have persons will be shown their lot. So they can be able to access. And phase two is now, the construction is now commencing. But it's one just after the other. And that's part of our new area of development within Region 10. Previously, we were focused on Amelia's Ward. So you had phase 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we've reached to the maximum of Amelia's Ward. So Wisma is part of our new development in Region 10, just like Kokwani. There's a portion of land before you cross over to where you know normally for Kokwani. We have developed a new housing scheme there too. So certainly people of Linden, and there are lands available still. We want to build houses too within those areas.
Fantastic.
Minister, it's clear from all that you have shared here with us today that housing remains a priority for the government in really ensuring social development and economic empowerment. And since this housing sector is crucial to remaining an important hallmark of the government's achievements, I want to ask you to touch a bit on the issue of corruption and ensuring that transparency and accountability remain the anchors of what you continue to do with your leadership. What can you tell our audience to assure them of this?
Sure. Actually, we've been working very closely with the Guyana Police Force, and we also have an arm within the Central Housing and Planning Authority for investigative work to be done in this regard. We do have complaints sometimes, and this is investigated where it can move onwards. One of our challenges has always been for you to have successful persons to be successfully charged, you have to have statements. And so, yes, somebody files a complaint to say, I've been duped. but then we need the statement and they don't want to go onwards. And this is what we want to encourage persons to do this. We do have cases. We have successful in recent times. We have been successful with cooperating in terms of investigation to have persons prosecuted in court. So certainly this is something we want to ensure does not happen. And every week there's some complaint of somebody being duped on somewhere, or for example, recent one was MMG, person messaging to say kindly through MMG you're being allocated, please deposit your money through MMG. Wow. So that's one means. You have sometimes we've had a case where the persons came in front of the ministry, pretending maybe they have some contact. They went into the ministry, just came out back. The person's in the car, and somehow creating that they have that connection to do persons. So we do have cases. And so I want to your listeners to say, once we were taking in all complaints, and even if you have any scenario, please report that. We want to have successful prosecution. We want to eliminate any attempts of anybody who's trying to defraud in any shape or form. And so, yes, we're mindful of corruption. And I where I sit, I hear all kind of accusations, etc. But I deal with what comes before me, and I take it further wherever required. But as I said, you still need that final. You still need to be able to cross that hurdle. You still need somebody to give that statement. The police has been making some successful, as I said. Even up till last week, I received a complaint by somebody in Region 3 calling persons and indicating that you can be offered a land. And so that sometimes is of concern too, because potentially a person is called, a potential person who has waiting a land, and they're thinking that it's a true call. Mm-hmm. Then we also have bogus letters that have been issued. Wow. We have forged letters that you can see the signature, you see the letterhead is not in sync. It keeps repeating itself. I mean, in one case I saw somebody calling the permanent secretary name to see, so those kind of things. You have creative and imaginative means where persons try in corrupt methods. And once any attempt is found, we move it to the next stage.
Minister, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights. I know that our audience learned quite a lot about what's to come and what has taken place under your leadership. So we wish you all the best with all that you will continue to do.
Well, I want to thank you for having me here, and I also want to acknowledge the wonderful team that we have at the Ministry of Housing, Central Housing and Planning Authority, the hardworking team, to be able to deliver on our commitments, to be able to make people's lives better. Home ownership, having your own home, housing touches the lives of every citizen. And so certainly we're happy to play our part.
Much appreciated, Minister.
Thank you.
To our audience, thank you as well for staying tuned. This has been your episode of Starting Point. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching Starting Point. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for critical updates and exclusive content.